I'm gonna be honest, you guys have no idea how nervous I was to read this book. Like, Riley Sager is my most hit or miss author for sure. So I was nervous to say the least. Hello, beautiful friends and book lovers. I hope that you're all doing well. If you're new here, my name is Heather, and here at Heather's Book Review, I typically love to read and review mysteries and thrillers, but I will read and review just about anything that I'm wanting to read at the moment. And just a little life update. Summer is almost over. If you're new here, my actual job is a teacher. And we're almost back. We are almost back to another school year. It just feels like this summer flew by. But all of my most anticipated reads are coming out at the end of the summer, which is crazy. So I feel like I've had a whirlwind of books to be reading. I read and reviewed None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, which comes out August 8th. Amazing. Go check out that review if you haven't seen it yet. Read, and now we'll be reviewing The Only One Left by Riley Sager. And then Good Bad Girl by Alice Feeney is coming out, and that is my most anticipated read of the year. So ending summer on a bang. So I got this from Book of the Month, but it wasn't their main thriller choice. So you had to choose one of their main choices in order to put this as an add-on for $10. If you're unfamiliar with Book of the Month, I've put my referral link in the description box below. And if you go through me, I get a free book, which is sweet. But you can also do add-ons if you choose from the main. So their main thriller was Dark Corners by Megan Golden. This author also wrote The Night Swim, which is one of those two right there. Didn't really love it. Have an old review for it. I'll put it up here for you. But I was like, you know what? I'll give it a chance, whatever. I wanted to get this for $10 for sure. And then also I'll show you, because it's what is it like to open a box like a normal person? I also, for $10, got Catherine Center's Hello Stranger. I've heard nothing but good things about this little romance, so I'm so excited. And then if you follow me on Instagram, you know, I've been obsessed with this author lately. I had to get Love Theoretically by Allie Hazelwood. I love her books. They're so steamy. They're so good. They make you feel good. I just love them. So yes, anyways, got it from Book of the Month. Decent chapter length. 383 pages long, so pretty decent. But yeah, it took me about one work week to read this. I was buddy reading it with one of my bookish BFFs, and we were just texting about it every day, and it just made me want to read it quicker. So yeah, it took me about one work week to read this, and then I wasn't tempted to be watching Love Island or anything, because I was like, you gotta get through this, you're doing a buddy read. I'm gonna give you my own little non-spoiler synopsis just because I feel like the fronts, yeah, I just want to do my own. I don't want to do the book synopsis. But basically, this book takes place in the early 80s, 1983 to be specific. And a younger woman is tasked to be a caregiver for a woman in her 70s who, she's a stroke victim, so she cannot talk or move around. But the crazy thing about this woman is that she is accused of murdering her parents and her sister back when she was a teen. So she's paralyzed. She lives in this huge mansion off of a cliff here. So this is, what you're supposed to envision as you're reading. And then our main character is her new caretaker. So she has to live at this mansion on a cliff with this woman who she's afraid of, to be honest. She's afraid of because she's known as being this killer around town. Everybody knows her name kind of thing. So I loved the setting. I loved that it was secluded like this. It was giving me Daisy Darker kind of vibes. You're in this big house, you're secluded, you're far away from everybody. Character-wise, our main character, she's just whatever. She's okay, right? There aren't too many characters in the book to keep you from getting words. There aren't too many characters in the book to where like you're gonna be confused. However, you don't really like gel or like vibe with the main character. Like she doesn't have a whole lot of depth. However, for a thriller book, does that bother me? Not necessarily. Like it's a thriller. Like I'm not trying to, it's not a fantasy. It's not a romance. Like I'm not trying to like really connect with the character, right? Like it's a thriller. I'm here for the thrills, you know? So that isn't necessarily like make it or break it for me. But I just did want to throw that out there. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. But yeah, it's crazy. This book gave me a little bit of Verity vibes. Verity by Colleen Hoover, one of the best thrillers ever, in my opinion. So good. So it gave me Verity vibes, and it also gave me like a little bit of Daisy Darker vibes. So if you've read either of those, this setting, this atmosphere, like the plot, like, you know, they kind of, you know, they're definitely very similar. So I would check it out if you liked either of those books. But I will say, on my rating scale, I'm giving this an enjoyable read, but I am also giving it a 4-star. I really did like this book. I was intrigued. I was hooked like the entire time. And I will say with Riley Sager, his books are either really, really good or, in my opinion, they completely suck. And the last two that he's come out with, The House Across the Lake, and here, I can just pull them like Why Be Lazy. His last two, Survive the Night and The House Across the Lake, were both just not great. They weren't great. This one, they were just so unbelievable and just like crazy in their own ways, and I didn't like them. However, I loved Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. So good. So good. And Lock Every Door, which I actually do not have a physical copy of. That one I listened to on Audible. But yeah, I was nervous because I'm either like, I'm going to love it or I'm going to hate it. Like I'm not really in between with his books. Like I either love them or I don't. So this one, it's more closer to the loved it, right? Even though I didn't, even though it's a 4-star and it's an enjoyable read. The reason I'm not giving it a go get this book now is because I feel like I'm pretty stingy with that rating. Like I have to really make sure that if I recommend a book to you and it's like, go buy it now, like go do it right this very second. Like I want to make sure in my heart that you're going to love it. And for this one, I could see where people don't like love it. Like, yeah, it's good. For me, I think it's really good. There are a ton of twists, You kind of get like sucker punched all with them at the end. But, like, I don't mind that. Again, like it's a thriller. Like I want the twist. I don't want just a little, like I want a lot, you know? So I really appreciated that. It was fun to predict for sure. I feel like with the major twist, I, in a sense, got it right, but like not fully. So I thought that was really fun. And then there were a lot of twists that like I just didn't see coming. So I really liked it. I think you guys are gonna like it for sure. If you've already read it, stay tuned because I am going to start the read with me portion of this video, which is really the best for viewers who have either A, read the book, it contains spoilers because it's literally like I'm reading it with you, or it's like if you have the book and you almost want to do a buddy read with it, the next portion of this video would be great because I break this book into 5 segments and then I tell you all of my thoughts in those 5 chapters as I'm reading and like what I'm predicting and stuff like that. So everything in the rest of this video will contain spoilers. So keep watching if you want to read it together or if you want to see if we predicted any of the same things. But yeah, pick it up. I think you'd like it. If you chose it as the book of the month and you haven't read it yet, get started. I think you'll like it. If you want to choose it as an add-on, I don't think you'd be disappointed. Guys, I haven't filmed a read with me. I can't even remember the last book. I don't know. I was taking diligent notes while reading this because I was doing a buddy read. So whenever I do a buddy read, it like holds me accountable to take notes. But these are my thoughts reading through chapters 1 through 10. And I'll put little timestamps in the description box below. So if you're currently reading this book with me, then you can just pause or skip to a certain part if you don't want to hear the rest as you're reading. But yeah, so like I said, these are my thoughts from chapters 1 through 10. I'm going to be looking at my notes a lot. I absolutely loved the setting. Like my first note is like, this is just my vibe. Like I love a thriller with a secluded setting. I love it so much. So like I already wrote, it was kind of giving me like Daisy Darker vibes a little bit, which it totally was. So we find out a little bit about what is going on with like Virginia and Lenora. And I typed out, what if Virginia was heard by Lenora screaming because Virginia was the actual one inside who killed her parents, and then realized that Lenora actually discovered what was going on. So Lenora took the knife and ran, but then Lenora went back inside and killed Virginia because she was so pissed off that Virginia killed her parents, kind of thing. But then because she killed her sister, it looked like she ended up just killing like her entire family, kind of thing. But what if she was only responsible for killing her sister and not her parents too? But she was like blamed for everything. So that was kind of what I was thinking reading the first 10. And I had one more thought. I said, I don't think Kit killed her mom. I do think it was a terrible mistake that probably haunts her to this day. Yeah, that's basically what I was thinking for the first 10 chapters. But yeah, I was just hooked. I was like so immersed in this setting. I was loving it. So my next thoughts will be reading through chapters 11 through 20. All right, thoughts on chapters 11 through 20. I wrote, it sounds like Kit's mom's death was maybe an assisted suicide. You get you see her mom saying like, please Kit, I'll only take one, in reference to the fentanyl. Did she know that her mom was going to take more than one, but like she just wanted to ease her suffering kind of sitch? I mean, I could see that being like a really difficult situation to be in for sure. Then I was so just like, I couldn't let it go that the mansion had 36 rooms. I was like, that's a lot of rooms and that's a lot of places to hide. So I put, is Mary actually just hiding in one of the 36 bedrooms for some reason? Like they think she's gone, but like maybe she's hiding in one of those rooms. Or Virginia, like now I'm starting to think, is Virginia really dead? Like, did it even say how old she was when she was murdered? Like now at this point in the book, I'm starting to kind of question like the ages of the siblings. Like I couldn't remember who was older or like how old Virginia was when she was murdered. Did she commit the murders of her parents and then hang herself out of like guilt? Is Mary hiding and that's why just like all of her stuff is there, and like maybe she's walking around at night and she can kind of like loot through her things a little bit? I mean, I know that would most likely wake Kit, but I think it's weird that all of her stuff is still there. I'm so curious like who's in Lenora's room at night. Like someone totally has to be hiding in one of these 36 rooms. Like they have to be hiding in there. I mean, it's a lot of space. And then I just can't stop thinking about like, okay, somebody killed Mary. Who killed Mary? I feel like she was killed because she found out too much. She probably found out the truth. What is the truth? I don't know, but somebody killed her for it, okay? Mary was letting Lenora type with her, but why is Lenora saying like she's only telling Kit because she trusts Kit? Like she said the same thing with Mary, right? So like at this point, I don't know if I can trust Lenora. Like she just might be an amazing storyteller. Being locked up in this room, not being able to talk, leave, see the world, like her brain is still active. Like maybe she's just a really, really, really good storyteller. And like on that train of thought, is Ricky even a person? Like, did she have a romance with Ricky? Or is she just such a good storyteller that he's like completely made up, right? Because having an affair like right under his wife's nose, you know, like they both work there. I don't know. It seems like something's fishy about it. I don't know. I just kind of think maybe she's like making everything up at this point because like she's bored and she's good at telling stories. So yeah, that's all my thoughts on chapters 11 through 20. And now the next segment will be all of my thoughts on chapters 21 through 30. All right, time for thoughts on chapters 21 through 30. We find out that Lenora was pregnant. So it is true about the affair with Ricky then. Oops, just messed up my notes a little bit. I wrote down that I thought it was suspicious that when that piece of like cliff fell off and like created that like big hole, whatever, it was crazy, Carter moves into the 3rd floor. And I thought it was interesting because when he moved in, Kit didn't hear anyone in Lenora's room for a change. So I thought, is that because I'm convinced someone is hiding out in this house, whether it's Virginia and she didn't really die, whether it's Mary, like someone is hiding out. And I think they're hiding out on the 3rd floor. And now that Carter moved in, I think maybe they're too scared to go roaming around because they don't want to be found out. So they're like laying low. Do you catch my vibe? Do you catch where I'm going with this? I did write that at this point in the book, the chapters do feel a little dull to me. It feels like a lot of just Kit kind of speculating that Lenora can do more than she actually lets on. So it just felt like it was a lot of like back and forth, maybe feeling a little repetitive there. Not a lot of spooky stuff is happening right now other than like Kit propping open the door with like all those paperback books just for it to like somehow be closed or whatever. Like that was kind of spooky. And I wrote, whoever is like sneaking around in Lenora's room, they're gutsy. They're gutsy because they're in there, but they're not being caught. But like, you know, they're living life on the edge because they could easily be caught, right? And again, I'm just reiterating my thought that like Lenora just seems like a really good storyteller. Okay, like it's tricky. It's just tricky. Can I believe her? I don't think so. But I'm also struggling with like, who can I believe in this book, right? Did she really tell Mrs. Baker that like she didn't want to go outside? Or is she like lying to Kit about that and saying that she never said that to Mrs. Baker like when she really did? Like I don't know. Riley Sager has really done a good job of like making me doubt Lenora because I doubt her. I doubt her more than I trust her. Okay, we've got our first jaw-dropping twist in this segment of the book, and that is the father having yet another affair because he's just a wonderful person, but with Mrs. Baker. I literally gasped when I was reading that part. I was like, what? I don't know. WTF. I did not see that coming. Why is Mrs. Baker still living with Lenora at this point in their lives? Like, I would want nothing to do with her. But I guess Lenora doesn't really have a choice. Like, she can't really communicate what she wants. She could be stuck with Mrs. Baker, which is like the vibe that I'm getting. So I think Mrs. Baker killed Mary and that she threw the typewriter over the cliff. Like she clearly doesn't want people to know the truth. It's obvious that Mrs. Baker doesn't want people to know the truth, right? Like we know that. There's no question about that. I'm just confused why the heck they're still living together when she had an affair with the dad. So I don't know. Those are all my thoughts on what was that, 21 through 30. So now the next segment will be all of my thoughts reading chapters 31 through 40. All right, here we go on thoughts chapters 31 through 40. So Kit finds the checks to the Ocean View retirement home. Here's my thought. If Virginia is still alive, right? Because there's always kind of been that like little part of me that's like, I don't know if she really was murdered. Like, I don't know if she's really dead. What if Virginia's still alive? That old police report was just fabricated. Like maybe they paid somebody off. I don't know. Maybe she is living at Ocean View Retirement Home And maybe the two sisters, like, they just can't be together because they hate each other. I don't know. I mean, they hated each other growing up. Like, we learned that, right? So it's kind of like, why would Virginia be at the retirement home? I don't know. I'm just speculating, but I don't know who else would be there. So then you find out when Lenora was bedridden, when she was pregnant and she wasn't like able to walk around, Mrs. Baker said that Ricky didn't want to come see her. I think that was just Mrs. Baker turning him away out of spite. I do think he wanted to come see her. Excuse me. I do think that he did have feelings for her. Oh, sorry, the phone's shaking. I'm just trying to scroll down these notes. So I think Mrs. Baker, like, we don't like her, right? She had an affair with the dad. I think she's doing this out of spite. And now it's time for another jaw-dropping twist. Detective Vic drops the ball that Virginia actually died 6 months after the parents' murders, after she was found hanging from the ceiling. So did she kill Lenora and then claim she was Lenora? But why? Like, why would she impersonate her? I don't understand. So, I don't know. I'm speculating that, but like, it doesn't quite make sense to me yet. So, I don't know. I don't know, but I know that means something. Like, we're given that clue that she died 6 months after the murders for something, right? Then on page 308, let me open that up real quick. Because I wrote down, please, Lenora, in quotes. Early and fast, terrified, I pounded on the door, calling for my sister. Please, I screamed. Please, Lenora. So now we find out that this has actually been from Virginia's point of view and that Virginia is actually Lenora, which actually I never did end up doing this, but I wrote in my notes, like, I wanted to go back and read all of the typewriting pages to see if the name to see if Lenora or Virginia was like ever used. Because we just assume that Kit is the caretaker for Lenora. So we assume that this is Lenora's point of view. But never once did I really think like maybe this was Virginia writing this. So I thought that was pretty good. Then, guys, there's so many notes for this part of the book. Mrs. Baker's Lenora. It did say earlier in the book that she was in her 70s too, just like Lenora, aka Virginia upstairs. But Mrs. Baker is like actually the crazy one. So my theory of somebody hiding out in the house was, I mean, like, it wasn't what I was thinking. She was kind of hiding in plain sight, right? Not in one of the 36 bedrooms that I've just been like fixated on. Okay. Ricky being mentioned in the story was not Ricardo, who works at Hope's End. That was a clever twist. This was just like a freelancer, was it? Like someone who didn't always work there, but was hired just to kind of help out a little bit. Then we find out that Archie was gay, or is gay, sorry, he's still alive. I had a feeling, I'm mad at myself that I didn't write this down, but earlier in the book, Virginia, Lenora, whatever, let's just call her Virginia, hinted that Archie was having like even a more scandalous affair than she was. And I was like, okay, it's the 20s, like being gay isn't acceptable right now at this time. Like he probably would get in a lot of trouble. I'm so mad I didn't write that down. But that wasn't like a massive twist really for me, just because I was kind of thinking about that. Because I'm like, what could be more scandalous than like what she's doing, you know? Then I'm like, I don't know. I think maybe Carter's lying about his story. I don't trust him. When she gets in the car with him, I'm like, oh God, I think he's going to hurt you. I don't know. But I'm dead set that Virginia did not kill her parents. Like, I really, really don't think she did. So the next segment is my thoughts from chapters 40 through finish, through the end of the book. So buckle up, because this is where things get really crazy. All right, here are all my thoughts on chapters 40 through finish. We were bamboozled again. with her dad, Patrick, being Ricky. I'm like, damn, that was done twice in this book. We were bamboozled again. This is the part where I'm kind of confused. I do have to go back and read this, but so we find out that Virginia hung herself. But wasn't she covered in stab wounds as well and then hung? I could have sworn we read that. But then it didn't, I don't think it ended up saying that. It just said that like she was paralyzed because she like, you know, her brain was losing out on all that oxygen and stuff. But I could have sworn, can someone please confirm in the comments below? Like I thought Virginia was stabbed a bunch of times and then found hanging from that noose or whatever. So anyways, we find out she hung herself. Patrick, the dad, also, I guess, left out the pills for the mom. I didn't see that coming either. I kind of stopped thinking about that part of the book of like Kit's mom because I just assumed it was kind of like an assisted suicide thing. But he was the one that was actually like kind of responsible for that. So I don't know if he left out the pills, but he was the one that like knew that the mom was going to take more kind of thing. And it wasn't Kit. And I'm like, what a shit person. Like he's literally made her feel so shitty. And like that he doesn't believe her, you know? I mean, just like terrible. Okay, this is like my one gripe with this book. The part when Lenora is in the manor and it's about to fall down. And Patrick, Kit's dad, just like runs back in the mansion to like be with her, even though they like don't even like each other / know each other really, just so they could fall off the cliff with the house. I don't know. That part seemed a little cringe. It seemed like it was just an easy way to get rid of those two characters, if I'm being honest. My favorite part of this whole book was this next piece that Virginia, Lenora, as we knew for most of the book, was actually the one walking around her room. She was never paralyzed. I thought that was crazy because Kit was actually right. Like she could do more than she was letting on. Damn, that part was so good. Then we're just like sucker punched again, finding out that Jessie is actually her granddaughter. Didn't see that coming. But yeah, I'm just like, damn, what a way to live your life. Like pretending to be paralyzed. Like so many years in that house. I mean, God, I don't know. I thought the ending was good. Like you can infer that Kit indeed did go to Paris because in this very last page here, where it says Hope is survived by her granddaughter, Jessie Oxford, and her husband, Robert, her great-granddaughter, Mary Hope Oxford, and her devoted friend, caregiver, and traveling companion, Kittredge McDear, meaning traveling companion. I think she ended up taking those Paris tickets and going. So, yeah, I mean, I liked it. It's not my favorite by him, but I think it's a lot better than his last two books. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. This is my vibe for a thriller. Like I love an unreliable cast of characters, you know? Like I just like to be kept guessing. So anyways, if you kind of did a little buddy read with me and read this along with me in this part, you know, watching this part of the video, then I hope you had fun. I want to know all of your thoughts, what you thought about this book. And yeah, just good book by him. But anyways, as always, thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Bye, you guys.